The warning siren screamed across New Geneva Station as 12 massive ships dropped out of hyperspace. Each vessel stretched over 5 kilometers long, their dark hulls bristling with weapon ports that glowed like angry eyes. Inside the station's command center, Admiral Kate watched the readings with growing dread. The alien fleet had arrived 3 days ahead of schedule. "Energy signatures are off the charts," reported Lieutenant Fox from his console. "Whatever those ships are carrying, it's nothing we've seen before." Admiral Thane of the Korthak Empire studied the primitive human outpost through his ship's viewing screen. His scaled fingers drummed against the command throne as tactical data scrolled past his yellow eyes. The intelligence reports had been correct. This species had barely mastered basic fusion drives and still used chemical propellants for their weapons. The conquest would be complete within hours. "Deploy the forward squadrons," Thane commanded in his native tongue, which is translation. Device converted to perfect English. "Target their military installations first, then secure population centers. Standard occupation protocol." The battle began with a display of overwhelming force. Dominion plasma beams sliced through human defensive platforms like they were made of paper. The energy shields protecting Earth's orbital stations flickered and died under sustained bombardment. Within 20 minutes, humanity's outer defensive ring had been completely destroyed. But something strange happened during the attack on Luna Station. The massive civilian outpost housed nearly 50,000 miners and their families. When Dominion forces moved to capture it, 3 human destroyers positioned themselves between the alien fleet and the station. The math was simple: 3 ships against 30. It should have been over in minutes. Captain Roy gripped his command chair as his ship, the Defiant, shook under enemy fire. His shields were gone, his engines were failing, and half his crew was dead. Any reasonable commander would have ordered retreat. Instead, he opened a channel to the other human ships. "This is Roy. We're going to buy them time to evacuate. All civilians off the station, then we make our stand." "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "we can't win this fight." "We don't need to win," Roy replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "We just need to hold them long enough." Admiral Thane watched in confusion as the human ships continued fighting despite catastrophic damage. The Defiant had lost half its hull, yet it still fired its primitive missiles at his forces. The tactical display showed human evacuation ships fleeing Luna Station, but instead of surrendering once their civilians were safe, the defending ships fought even harder. The second destroyer, the Guardian, rammed itself into a Dominion cruiser when its weapons failed. The explosion took out both ships and created a debris field that forced the alien fleet to adjust their attack pattern. This bought precious minutes for the evacuees to escape. Roy's ship was the last defender. His hull was cracked open to space, his crew reduced to a handful of volunteers who had refused evacuation orders. Through the static-filled communications, he could hear confirmation that the last civilian transport had cleared Luna Station. "All civilian ships clear," came the report. "Station evacuation complete." Roy nodded to his remaining crew. "Thank you all for serving with honor. For Earth." The Defiant's final act was to overload its fusion reactor and ram the largest Dominion ship in the formation. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a brief new star that marked the end of the first battle but not the end of the war. Admiral Thane stared at the tactical display in bewilderment. The human commander had destroyed his own ship and died with his crew, accomplishing nothing but a minor delay in the overall invasion. In Dominion culture, leaders preserve themselves and their resources above all else. Self-sacrifice for non-combatants was not just foolish, it was incomprehensible. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we have secured Luna Station, but our casualty reports are concerning." Thane reviewed the data with growing unease. 3 human ships had managed to destroy or damage 12 Dominion vessels before being eliminated. The exchange ratio was impossible according to their military models. Primitive kinetic weapons and nuclear missiles should have been completely ineffective against Dominion shields and armor. But the humans had not fought like any conquered species in Dominion history. They had studied their enemies during the brief battle, adapted their tactics in real time, and targeted specific weak points that their sensors had identified in the alien technology. Every human weapon had been precisely aimed for maximum effect. The invasion of Earth proceeded according to plan, but each engagement revealed more disturbing patterns. Human ground forces held positions far longer than their equipment and numbers should have allowed. Civilian populations actively sabotaged Dominion equipment instead of surrendering peacefully. Even children threw rocks at alien soldiers, showing no fear of the consequences. During the siege of New York, Dominion forces expected the massive city to fall within days. Instead, they found themselves fighting street by street against an enemy that seemed to know every building, every tunnel, every hiding spot. Human defenders appeared from manholes to destroy Dominion tanks with improvised explosives, then vanished back into the urban maze before retaliation was possible. "These humans are irrational," complained General Vex during a command briefing. "They continue fighting even when victory is impossible. They waste resources defending areas with no strategic value. Their behavior defies all military logic." Admiral Thane studied casualty reports from 17 different battle zones. Human resistance was supposed to collapse once their major military units were destroyed. But if anything, it was growing stronger. Small groups of human fighters were proving more dangerous than their organized armies had been. The most troubling development was how quickly humans learned from each engagement. Dominion weapons captured in one battle were being used against them in the next. Human engineers were reverse engineering alien technology with impossible speed, creating hybrid weapons that combined primitive human materials with advanced Dominion energy systems. By the time Earth's major cities had been occupied, Dominion casualties exceeded 30% of the invasion force. What should have been a simple conquest had turned into the bloodiest campaign in their military history, yet the High Council demanded that the occupation continue. Too much had been invested to withdraw now. Admiral Thane stood in his private quarters, looking out at the blue planet below. Something fundamental had gone wrong with their invasion plan. The humans were supposed to be a primitive species, easily dominated and incorporated into the Dominion. Instead, they were proving to be the most dangerous enemy his people had ever encountered. The real war was just beginning. The last transmission from Chicago came at dawn, 6 months after the Dominion had declared Earth conquered. Then the city went silent. Not destroyed, not evacuated, just silent. Alien patrol ships circled the ruins like confused predators, searching for an enemy that had simply vanished into the concrete and steel bones of the metropolis. Colonel Wade crouched in a maintenance tunnel 50 feet beneath Michigan Avenue, studying crude maps drawn on salvaged paper. His beard had grown wild during the months of underground fighting, and his uniform was a patchwork of scavenged human and alien materials. Around him, 37 fighters waited in the darkness, their breathing the only sound in the cramped space. "Patrol pattern hasn't changed in 3 days, whispered Sergeant Mills, pointing to marks on the map. "They still think we're hiding in the subway tunnels." Wade smiled grimly. The aliens had no idea how extensive Chicago's underground network truly was. Steam tunnels, utility corridors, abandoned Prohibition-era passages, and natural cave systems, connected in a maze that stretched for hundreds of miles beneath the city. The Dominion had detailed scans of Earth's surface, but they had never imagined that humans might retreat into the planet itself. Dr. Ann worked by candlelight in what used to be a subway maintenance shop, now converted into a research laboratory. Alien plasma rifles lay disassembled on makeshift tables, their components sorted and cataloged like pieces of a deadly puzzle. Her team of volunteer scientists and engineers had been working for months to understand Dominion technology, driven by desperate necessity and human curiosity. "The power cells are the key," she explained to her assistant, holding up a crystalline component that pulsed with inner light. "Their energy weapons require a specific frequency to function, but if we modify the output using our own materials..." She connected the alien power cell to a crude human targeting system built from car parts and computer components. The hybrid weapon hummed to life, its barrel glowing with the same energy that had destroyed Earth's defenses. The difference was that this one was designed by human hands, modified for human tactics, and powered by human determination. 3 levels above, Dominion soldiers patrolled the empty streets in their massive armor suits. They had been told that Chicago was secure, but every night brought new attacks from enemies who seemed to materialize from solid concrete and vanish just as mysteriously. The psychological effect was devastating. How do you fight an enemy that lives in the walls themselves? Lieutenant Core of the Dominion 3rd Division led his squad through the ruins of the Willis Tower. Intelligence reported human activity in the area, but their scanners showed nothing but empty buildings and rubble. The silence was unnerving. Earth's other conquered cities had retained some civilian population, but Chicago felt like a tomb. The attack came without warning. Shaped charges detonated beneath their feet, dropping the entire squad into a prepared pit filled with razor wire and improvised explosives. As alien soldiers struggled in the trap, human fighters emerged from concealed positions and opened fire with converted plasma weapons. The battle lasted 12 minutes. When Dominion reinforcements arrived, they found only empty tunnels and 17 dead soldiers. The humans had vanished again, leaving behind no traces except graffiti spray painted on nearby walls. Welcome to Chicago. Population unknown. Wade's network had grown beyond anything he had imagined possible. Resistance cells operated independently. Throughout the city, connected by a communication system that used the abandoned fiber optic cables running beneath the streets. Each group specialized in different aspects of the underground war. Some focused on weapons research, others on intelligence gathering, and still others on the most dangerous job of all: surface raids to capture alien technology and supplies. The tunnel system had become a parallel city where thousands of survivors lived in conditions that would have been unthinkable before the invasion. Families slept in utility corridors. Children attended school in abandoned subway cars. Gardens grew under artificial lights powered by captured alien energy cells. They had not just hidden from the Dominion, they had built an entire civilization beneath their feet. "We're not just surviving down here," Wade explained to newly arrived refugees from Milwaukee. "We're adapting, learning, getting stronger every day. The Dominion controls the surface, but they'll never control what's underneath." The aliens' advanced sensors proved useless in the dense urban environment. Their energy weapons created, too, much collateral damage for effective occupation tactics. Most disturbing of all, the humans seemed to be learning from every encounter, while Dominion forces became more demoralized with each patrol. Admiral Thane received daily reports that painted an increasingly grim picture. Chicago was officially under Dominion control, but no alien soldier felt safe walking its streets. Similar situations were developing in New York, London, Tokyo, and every other major city on Earth. The humans had turned their own planet into a weapon designed to trap occupying forces. Captain Vex led a reconnaissance mission into the tunnels, beneath downtown Chicago, hoping to map the human underground network. His team of elite Dominion commandos was equipped with the most advanced scanning equipment available. They descended through a damaged building into what appeared to be a simple utility tunnel. 6 hours later, only 2 members of the team made it back to the surface. They reported a labyrinthine network of passages that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. Human defenders had turned every intersection into a potential ambush site. Worse, the tunnels were trapped with a combination of alien technology and human ingenuity that created deadly surprises at every turn. "They know these passages better than we know our own ships," Vex reported to his superiors. "Every tunnel leads to 3 more tunnels. Every room connects to 5 different escape routes. Fighting them down there is like trying to catch smoke with our bare hands." Dr. Ann's research team achieved a breakthrough that would change the underground war. They successfully reverse-engineered Dominion personal shields, creating lightweight protection that could be manufactured using materials scavenged from the surface. Human fighters could now survive direct hits from alien energy weapons, evening the odds in close-quarters combat. The shield technology spread through the resistance network within weeks. Each cell improved on the design, adding their own modifications and sharing the results. What had taken the Dominion decades to perfect, humans accomplished in months through desperate innovation and collaborative engineering. Wade stood in the main command center, a converted subway platform lit by dozens of alien power cells. Maps covered every available surface, marked with patrol routes, tunnel entrances, and supply caches. Radio operators maintained contact with resistance cells across the globe, coordinating attacks and sharing intelligence. "Sir," reported his communications chief, "we've got confirmation from London, Tokyo, and Berlin. All underground networks are operational and expanding. The Dominion has surface control of major cities, but they're losing the war beneath them." The Colonel nodded, studying a report from his weapons team. They had captured an intact Dominion command speeder during their latest surface raid. More importantly, they had taken 3 alien officers alive. The interrogation had revealed something crucial. The Dominion High Council was beginning to question the wisdom of continuing the Earth campaign. Outside, dawn was breaking over the ruins of Chicago. Alien patrol ships circled overhead, searching for an enemy they could not find. 50 feet below, in tunnels they did not know existed, humanity was preparing for the next phase of their impossible war. The holographic display showed casualty statistics that made no sense according to every military model in Dominion history. Captain Voss of Intelligence Division stared at the numbers, rechecked his calculations, and arrived at the same impossible conclusion. After 1 year of occupation, Earth's human population had somehow become more dangerous than they had been during the initial invasion. "Explain this to me again," Admiral Thane demanded, his scaled features reflecting the blue glow of the tactical display. "How does a conquered species improve its combat effectiveness while under occupation?" Voss manipulated the hologram, showing comparative data from the Dominion's previous 67 conquered worlds. "In every other case, sir, resistance decreased over time as the population adapted to our presence. Insurgent activities followed predictable patterns. Resource limitations eventually forced capitulation. But humans—" He paused, struggling to find words for something unprecedented in galactic history. "Humans treat warfare like education," Voss continued. "Every failed attack becomes a lesson for the next attempt. Every captured piece of our technology becomes material for their research. They don't just adapt to new situations, Admiral. They actively seek them out." Deep beneath Detroit's abandoned automotive factories, Engineer Pete supervised a workshop that would have amazed the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Human workers had transformed miles of underground assembly lines into research laboratories, where captured Dominion technology was not just studied, but systematically improved upon. "The plasma focusing array is inefficient," Pete explained to his team, pointing at a disassembled alien rifle. "They prioritize power over accuracy, but if we replace their crystalline matrix with a hybrid carbon-aluminum composite and adjust the energy flow using our own circuitry," the modified weapon that emerged from his workshop fired plasma bolts with 20% greater accuracy and 30% better energy efficiency than the original Dominion design. More disturbing to alien intelligence analysts, the improvements were being shared across the entire human resistance network within days of their discovery. Lieutenant Fox crouched in a bombed-out office building, watching Dominion patrol patterns through binoculars made from salvaged camera lenses and alien optical components. For 3 weeks he had observed the same route, timing each patrol to the second. The aliens followed their protocols exactly, never varying their path or schedule. "Predictable," he muttered into his radio. "Patrol 7 will reach intersection 4 in exactly 8 minutes and 30 seconds, same as always." This was the fundamental difference that Captain Voss had identified in his intelligence reports. Dominion forces followed established doctrine because it had proven successful across dozens of worlds. Humans, however, treated every engagement as a unique problem requiring creative solutions. The ambush at intersection 4 was a masterpiece of improvised engineering. Human fighters had spent days preparing the site, using captured gravity manipulators to weaken building foundations at precise stress points. When the alien patrol reached the predetermined location, shaped charges triggered a controlled collapse that buried the entire squad under tons of rubble. But the ambush itself was less important than what happened next. Hidden cameras recorded the Dominion response, analyzing their rescue procedures, emergency protocols, and tactical reactions. Within hours, this intelligence was transmitted to resistance cells worldwide, allowing other human fighters to prepare similar traps, optimized for alien psychology and behavior patterns. Dr. Ann had moved her research operation to a massive, underground complex beneath the ruins of MIT. Her team had grown from a handful of desperate scientists to nearly 200 researchers working around the clock. They had achieved something the Dominion considered impossible. They had reverse-engineered alien technology and then improved upon it. The breakthrough came when we stopped trying to copy their methods, she explained to Colonel Wade during his inspection visit. Dominion technology is designed for their physiology and psychology, but humans think differently, move differently, fight differently. So we took their components and rebuilt them according to human principles. She showed him the latest prototype, a combat suit that combined Dominion personal shields with human mobility enhancements. The result was armor that provided better protection than standard alien equipment, while being lighter and more flexible. Human fighters wearing these suits could outmaneuver Dominion soldiers while surviving direct hits from their weapons. The psychological impact on occupying forces was devastating. Captain Rex of the 4th Assault Division submitted his third request for transfer in as many months. His unit had lost 40% of its strength fighting an enemy that seemed to grow more capable with each encounter. They're not the same species we invaded a year ago, he reported to his superiors. Every engagement teaches them something new. They've learned to predict our tactics, counter our weapons, and exploit weaknesses in our equipment that we didn't know existed. The evidence was overwhelming. Human resistance cells had learned to intercept Dominion communications and decode their tactical frequencies. They had developed improvised electronic warfare systems that could disrupt alien sensors and navigation equipment. Most unsettling, they had begun modifying their own physiology using captured medical technology, enhancing human reflexes and endurance to better fight their occupiers. Admiral Thane reviewed the latest strategic assessment with growing unease. The initial invasion had been planned based on standard occupation protocols developed over centuries of galactic conquest. But Earth was unlike any world the Dominion had ever encountered. The human population was not just resisting, they were evolving. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we're receiving requests for reinforcements from all occupied territories. Human resistance activities have increased by 300% since the initial conquest. Our forces are requesting immediate resupply of weapons, ammunition, and personnel. But reinforcements were exactly what the Dominion could not provide. The Earth campaign had already consumed vast resources, and member species of the Alliance were beginning to question the wisdom of continuing what appeared to be an unwinnable war. In underground bunkers across the globe, human commanders coordinated, their efforts using communication networks built from salvaged alien equipment. They shared tactical innovations, technical breakthroughs, and strategic intelligence with a speed and efficiency that amazed their enemies. London reports successful deployment of hybrid plasma weapons, announced the communications officer, in Wade's Chicago command center. Tokyo has developed new shield configurations that provide better protection against energy weapons. Berlin has created portable electromagnetic pulse devices that can disable Dominion vehicles. Each piece of shared knowledge made the entire resistance network more effective. What one cell learned, all cells could implement within days. Humans had turned their planet into a vast laboratory where every engagement generated data for improving their capabilities. Professor Allen worked in a converted subway tunnel that served as his psychology laboratory. His research focus was unique among the resistance. Instead of studying alien technology, he studied alien behavior. His team had compiled detailed profiles of Dominion military psychology, identifying patterns and weaknesses that could be exploited. They cannot comprehend an enemy that becomes more dangerous when cornered, Allen explained to his research assistants. Every species in their empire follows predictable surrender patterns when faced with overwhelming force, but humans respond to pressure by innovating, adapting, and fighting back harder. His psychological analysis became the foundation for a new type of warfare. Instead of trying to defeat Dominion forces through conventional tactics, human fighters began deliberately triggering alien psychological responses. They created situations where Dominion soldiers felt isolated, confused, and helpless, knowing that alien military doctrine provided no training for such scenarios. The result was a collapse in alien morale that spread throughout the occupation force. Dominion soldiers began requesting transfers, refusing dangerous assignments, and in some cases abandoning their posts entirely. The mighty military machine that had conquered 67 worlds was being defeated by an enemy that treated warfare as a learning experience. As the first anniversary of the invasion approached, Admiral Thane received a direct communication from the Dominion High Council. The message was brief and unambiguous. End the Earth campaign immediately by any means necessary. The war was costing too much in resources, personnel, and credibility. Other species in the galaxy were watching, and the Dominion could not afford to appear weak. The first orbital bombardment began at midnight Greenwich time, turning London into a sea of fire that could be seen from space. Admiral Thane had received his final orders from the High Council. Break human resistance through overwhelming destruction, then eliminate all survivors. The Dominion was abandoning any pretense of occupation in favor of complete annihilation, but the humans had been expecting this escalation. Deep in his Rocky Mountain command bunker, General Tom watched satellite feeds of the devastation with calm eyes. His staff officers waited tensely for orders, but Tom remained silent until the bombardment ended and the casualty reports began arriving. Acceptable losses, he finally announced, turning away from the screens showing humanity's burning cities. Phase 2 is now authorized. Remove all restrictions. Show them what total war really means. The words sent a chill through his staff because they knew what Phase 2 entailed. For 18 months, human resistance had operated under strict rules of engagement designed to minimize civilian casualties and avoid unnecessary destruction. Those rules had just been eliminated. If the Dominion wanted to exterminate humanity, they would learn the true meaning of desperation. Captain Dave piloted the stolen Dominion cruiser through hyperspace toward the Korthak home system, his human crew working frantically at alien control stations. They had learned to operate through captured training manuals and interrogated prisoners. Behind them, 3 more captured ships followed in formation, their holds filled with human volunteers who had said goodbye to Earth, knowing they would never return. Target acquired, reported his navigator, a former astronomy professor who had spent months learning alien star charts. Korthak Prime, population 4 billion. Orbital defense platforms detect that minimal military presence. The irony was perfect. While the Dominion committed their entire fleet to destroying Earth, their own worlds remained virtually undefended. They had never imagined that primitive humans could steal their ships, master interstellar navigation, and carry the war to the heart of their empire. The attack on Korthak Prime did not target military installations or industrial facilities. Instead, human raiders struck schools, hospitals, and cultural centers with the same merciless efficiency the Dominion had shown Earth cities. But where alien bombardments were random destruction, human attacks were precisely calculated for maximum psychological impact. Every strike was accompanied by broadcasts transmitted on all frequencies. We know where you live. We know where your children sleep. We're coming. Dr. Anne had been evacuated to an underground facility in the Australian outback, where her research team worked around the clock to support humanity's most desperate gambit. They had achieved something impossible: complete mastery of Dominion technology combined with human innovation. Their workshops now produced weapons and equipment superior to anything in the alien arsenal. The neural interface modifications are complete, she reported to General Tom via encrypted quantum communication. Our pilots can now operate their ships more efficiently than they can. Our gunners achieve better accuracy with their weapons than their own crews. We've become better at using their technology than they are. The psychological warfare proved more devastating than physical attacks. Within weeks of the first off-world raids, panic spread throughout Dominion space. Civilian populations demanded protection from human terrorists who could strike anywhere without warning. Military resources had to be diverted from the Earth campaign to defend homeworlds against an enemy that fought with no mercy and followed no rules. On Earth, the resistance had evolved into something resembling a force of nature. Colonel Wade led operations from a mobile command center that moved constantly through Chicago's tunnel network. His forces had learned to use orbital bombardments tactically, allowing Dominion fire to destroy buildings they wanted collapsed while their own personnel sheltered in deep bunkers. Bombardment incoming in 60 seconds, announced his early warning operator. Target Zone Financial District Sections 7 through 12. Wade studied the tactical map with satisfaction. The aliens were unknowingly demolishing structures that blocked access to deeper tunnel levels. Each bombardment made the underground network more accessible, while creating new rubble fields perfect for ambush positions. The human fighters emerged from their shelters while the ground was still smoking, moving through the devastation like ghosts. They salvaged useful materials from the wreckage, planted new traps in the ruins, and prepared positions for the next engagement. The Dominion was literally destroying the city to save it, but the city kept fighting back. Professor Allen's psychological research had identified the critical flaw in Dominion military thinking. They could not comprehend an enemy that became more dangerous when cornered. His analysis became the foundation for a campaign of systematic terror, designed to break alien morale completely. Every species they've conquered follows predictable patterns, Allen explained during a strategy conference held in a converted subway station. When faced with superior force, they negotiate. When negotiations fail, they surrender. When surrender is impossible, they despair. But humans respond to hopeless situations by becoming more resourceful, more determined, and more dangerous. The evidence was overwhelming. Dominion casualty reports showed increasing losses despite their overwhelming technological advantage. Human fighters were achieving impossible exchange ratios, destroying alien equipment worth billions of credits, using improvised weapons built from scrap metal and salvaged components. More disturbing were the reports from Dominion homeworlds. Human raiders had proven they could strike anywhere in the galaxy, turning the entire war into a nightmare of random terror and constant fear. No alien civilian felt safe, no world could be considered secure, and no military force seemed capable of stopping the human assault. Admiral Thane received increasingly desperate reports from throughout the Dominion. The Zalari homeworld had suffered 3 separate human raids in as many weeks. The Vorthon industrial complex had been completely destroyed by human saboteurs who infiltrated using stolen identities. Morale throughout the alien alliance was collapsing as member species realized they faced an enemy unlike anything in galactic history. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer during the daily briefing, "we have confirmed human presence in 17 different star systems. They're operating captured ships with apparent expertise, using our own navigation networks against us and coordinating attacks across impossible distances." The tactical situation had reversed completely. Instead of humans hiding in underground tunnels while aliens controlled the surface, entire Dominion worlds were now under siege by human raiders, who struck without warning and vanished back into hyperspace before retaliation was possible. The breaking point came when human forces captured a Dominion admiral during a raid on the Nexus Station military facility. The interrogation, broadcast on all frequencies throughout alien space, revealed detailed plans for the complete extermination of humanity. But instead of breaking human morale, the revelation triggered something far worse: unlimited retaliation. General, Tom issued new orders that spread throughout the human resistance network. All restrictions are hereby removed. Target military, civilian, and industrial assets without discrimination. Show no mercy. Take no prisoners. Make them regret they ever heard of Earth. The galaxy had never seen warfare like what followed. Human raiders struck with a brutality that shocked even hardened alien military commanders. They destroyed entire space stations, eliminated civilian populations, and left burning worlds as monuments to human determination. Every attack was accompanied by the same message: this is what you get for threatening humanity. Within 6 months of beginning their campaign of unlimited warfare, humans had achieved something impossible in galactic history. They had forced the mighty Dominion alliance to consider surrender. Not negotiated withdrawal, not strategic repositioning, but complete capitulation to a species they had dismissed as primitive savages. The war that began with alien confidence in easy victory had become a nightmare that threatened to destroy the entire Dominion civilization. And still the humans kept fighting, kept learning, kept adapting to every challenge their enemies presented. Admiral Thane stood in his private quarters, staring at casualty reports that painted a picture of complete military disaster. The High Council was demanding immediate victory, but victory had become impossible. The humans had proven they could not be conquered, could not be destroyed, and would never surrender. For the first time in his military career, the veteran commander began drafting a document no Dominion officer had ever written: terms for unconditional surrender to a primitive species from a backwater world called Earth. The neutral space station orbited a dead world at the edge of contested space, its corridors filled with diplomats and observers from dozens of species. News of the peace negotiations had spread throughout the galaxy, drawing representatives eager to witness something unprecedented in galactic history: the surrender of the mighty Dominion to a single world they had failed to conquer. President Marie stepped off the human transport ship, wearing a simple black suit that contrasted sharply with the elaborate ceremonial robes of alien dignitaries. She carried no weapons, brought no guards, and showed no signs of the 3 years of war that had transformed her from a university professor into the elected leader of Earth's provisional government. Admiral Thane waited in the conference chamber, his scaled features betraying none of the humiliation he felt at negotiating with what his people still considered primitive mammals. The formal surrender documents lay on the table between them, written in 17 different languages to ensure there could be no misunderstanding of their contents. "The terms are acceptable," Thane said without preamble, his translation device rendering his words in perfect English. "Complete Dominion withdrawal from Earth space, full reparations for war damages, and formal recognition of Earth as an independent world with protected status." Marie nodded calmly as she reviewed the documents. "And in exchange, humanity ceases all off-world military operations and returns captured Dominion personnel within 90 standard days. All human raiders will withdraw to Earth space and remain there unless invited elsewhere." The negotiations lasted less than an hour because both sides understood the reality of their situation. The Dominion had lost nearly half its fleet, seen member worlds devastated by human raiders, and watched its military reputation crumble across the galaxy. Continuing the war meant risking complete annihilation at the hands of an enemy that had proven incapable of surrender. But the most important clause in the treaty was one that would echo through galactic history. Earth's new status as a protected world did not mean protection by others, but a world so dangerous that invasion itself was considered an act of galactic suicide. As the documents were signed and sealed, observers from throughout the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The species that had once seemed destined to rule among the stars had been humbled by mammals from a single world who refused to accept defeat. 50 years later, Captain Ray commanded the human exploration vessel Pioneer as it approached the Nexus Trade Conference, a gathering of alien civilizations that met annually to negotiate commercial agreements and resolve territorial disputes. When the human ship requested permission to attend, the response came immediately from every species present: "Welcome to the conference." The elderly Korthak delegate, his scales now gray with age, watched the human ship dock with a mixture of respect and remembered fear. His young aide, born after the war, asked the question that puzzled his entire generation. "Honored elder, why do the humans receive such immediate acceptance? They represent only one world, while some species here control dozens of star systems." The old alien gestured toward a memorial wall that dominated the conference center's main hall. Carved in black stone were the names of 12 species that had once formed the mighty Dominion Alliance. 7 of those names were marked with the symbol for extinction. Those species were not destroyed by humans, the elder explained patiently. They were torn apart by internal conflicts that began when their populations learned how badly their militaries had performed against Earth. When people discovered that their supposedly invincible fleets had been defeated by primitives using improvised weapons, the political consequences were catastrophic. The young aide studied the memorial with growing understanding. The humans didn't just defeat the Dominion, they destroyed it completely. More than that, the elder continued. They taught the galaxy a lesson that every species here remembers. Some enemies become more dangerous when threatened, not less. Some worlds cannot be conquered because they conquer their conquerors instead. Captain Ray reviewed intelligence reports on potential threats to human space while his ship prepared for the conference proceedings. The data showed dozens of alien empires theoretically capable of challenging Earth, but none had shown any interest in trying. After 50 years, humanity's reputation as the species that could not be conquered had only grown stronger. The memorial wall contained another inscription, added 20 years after the war ended, when the last Dominion survivor died in exile. It read, "To the species of the galaxy, some worlds are not conquered. They adapt, they overcome, and they ensure the universe never makes the same mistake twice." During the conference, Captain Ray noticed how other species interacted with humans. There was respect, certainly, but also something deeper. Fear, perhaps, or maybe just healthy caution when dealing with a species known for turning desperate situations into unexpected victories. The human delegation was small compared to the massive retinues brought by other species, but their presence dominated the conference discussions. When humans spoke, others listened. When they made suggestions, those suggestions were seriously considered. When they expressed concerns, those concerns became priorities. Trade agreements were negotiated, with unprecedented speed and fairness. Territorial disputes that had simmered for decades were resolved through human mediation. The species that had once been dismissed as primitive had become the galaxy's most respected diplomats, not through military might, but through the reputation earned during their impossible war. Ambassador Lisa spoke for Earth during the main conference session, her words carrying the weight of humanity's hard-won wisdom. "We learned during our darkest hours that survival requires more than advanced technology or superior numbers. It requires the willingness to adapt, to change, and to never accept defeat as final." Her speech was broadcast throughout the galaxy, carrying a message that resonated with every species that had ever faced extinction. The humans had proven that even the most hopeless situations could be overcome through determination and ingenuity. In the conference center's archives, scholars studied detailed records of the Earth-Dominion War, trying to understand how such a massive military reversal had been possible. The analysis revealed patterns that challenged every assumption about warfare and conquest. Professor Vex, a Zalari military historian, published the definitive study of human tactical evolution during the war. His conclusions were disturbing to traditional military thinking, but impossible to dispute given the evidence. "Humans do not fight wars," he wrote. "They solve problems. Every battle is treated as a learning opportunity. Every defeat becomes data for the next engagement. They turn warfare itself into a form of education, growing stronger with each challenge they face." The Galactic military academies now taught courses based on human combat methods, studying how Earth's defenders had transformed from primitive fighters into the most effective warriors in known space. The lessons were sobering. Never underestimate an enemy's capacity for growth, never assume technological superiority guarantees victory, and never corner a species known for creative problem-solving. Captain Ray walked through the memorial garden outside the conference center, reading inscriptions that told the story of the war from dozens of different perspectives. Each species had learned something different from humanity's victory, but all had learned respect for the dangerous mammals from the small blue world. One inscription, written by a Vorthan philosopher, captured the essence of what the galaxy had witnessed. "The humans showed us that some species do not break when the universe tries to break them. Instead, they become something stronger, something more dangerous, something that ensures the universe will never make the same mistake again." As the conference concluded, Captain Ray prepared his ship for the journey back to Earth. His crew was young, born after the war, but they carried themselves with the quiet confidence that came from knowing their species had faced the impossible and prevailed. The final transmission from the conference came from the elderly Korthak delegate, his message simple but profound. "Safe travels, humans. The galaxy is better for having learned from your example." Earth cities had been rebuilt in the decades following the war, but memorials throughout human space ensured the lessons were never forgotten. The most prominent monument stood in the ruins of Chicago, where Colonel Wade had led the underground resistance. Its inscription was visible from orbit. To those who would threaten humanity, ask not what we will do to you. Ask what we will become. The warning had proven unnecessary. 50 years after the war's end, no species had tested human resolve. The galaxy had learned its lesson and remembered it well. Some enemies are defeated in battle, but others are conquered through understanding what they represent. The dangerous possibility that any species, no matter how primitive, might refuse to accept the universe's verdict on their fate. Humanity stood as living proof that adaptation, determination, and ingenuity could overcome any challenge. They had not just survived their trial by fire, they had emerged as something new, something that commanded respect throughout the galaxy. The war was over, but its lessons echoed through space and time. Never again would any species underestimate the power of those who refuse to surrender, refuse to break, and refuse to accept that victory is impossible. In the end, the Dominion had learned the most important lesson of all. Some species cannot be conquered because they turn conquest itself into education, defeat into opportunity, and desperation into strength. The humans had not just won their war, they had redefined what victory could mean. As the Pioneer entered hyperspace for the journey home, Captain Ray reviewed the conference proceedings one final time. The galaxy had changed because of what humanity had endured and overcome. Peace was maintained not through fear or force, but through the universal understanding that some fights are too costly to begin. The stars themselves seemed to whisper the lesson learned 50 years ago on a small world that refused to surrender. Beware those who grow stronger in darkness, for when they emerge into the light, they will shine brighter than any star.